Hello, welcome to DevChat. Thanks to any replay viewers, thanks to any online viewers who might be awake right now. I appreciate that it's probably pretty late at night or conversely pretty early in the morning for any potential American audience. So we might have some international audience, and that's cool too. A lot of people are taking an interest in Donald Trump and how Trumpism is leading the world into a global depression. Is that obvious to most people? It's pretty obvious to me that the Republican Party, led by Trump, is on a course of action to contract the middle and working classes and reward the interest-earning class, people who earn interest on their assets as opposed to people who earn a wage. So there is a massive transfer of wealth because taxes that wage earners have paid to the federal government is being given via stimulatory measures to CEOs of wealthy corporations in forms of bailout packages, whereby the CEOs are rewarded by an increase in stock prices. They sometimes then sell their stocks because they can look ahead even a small amount into the future and see that stocks are overvalued, that the market for goods and services is contracting because people are losing their jobs. And when people lose their jobs, they lose their source of income and they lose the ability to engage in discretionary spending. So the only things that they can buy become food and shelter and electricity bills. And their ability to buy consumer products is severely constricted in a general sense. So most companies are going to have to lay off more workers. This is part of what's called circling the drain in an economic sense, when there's a cyclical, self-reinforcing pattern of economic contraction because job layoffs reduce income, result in a contracted demand for goods and services, resulting in a reduced income for companies, resulting in further layoffs, etc., ad nauseum, unless a wise government interjects with appropriately targeted stimulatory payments that help the people who are losing the most discretionary income to have some kind of income, unemployment insurance or income to tide them over so that they can spend money on goods and services. So a lot of the payments, Trump has obviously put the United States in a significant amount of debt, but it has not been well-targeted stimulatory measures. So people can tell you that various companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies have received payments that were ostensibly directed or intended for small businesses to save Main Street. Main Street has not been saved. A significant amount of African-American-owned businesses haven't got any money because the money was distributed through large banks. So if you didn't already have a lending relationship with a large bank, then you missed out, or you were much more likely to miss out on getting a PPP payment from the government or a PPP easily forgivable loan. So that's one way in which small businesses have missed out, but other small businesses have also missed out as well. They missed the deadline. And again, millions of taxpayer dollars have gone to reinforcing the wealth of people who are already pretty wealthy. And those people are not going to take their enhanced wealth and spend it on goods and services. Wealthy people spending money does not keep the economy afloat, not just because they are numerically small in terms of how many wealthy people there are in a proportionate sense, but also because they've already got enough money to spend on their goods and services that they want. If you give them extra money, they put it into trust funds for their children. They don't consume an adequate amount of goods and services to keep the economy running. I hope that makes sense. So one other claim that Trump made in his recent Axios interview, where he notably said it is what it is. People are dying. It is what it is about the out of control pandemic raging across various Southern American states. He also claimed to have done more for African Americans than any United States president, with the possible exception, he said, of Abraham Lincoln. So we're going to watch a small segment from Joy Reid. Oh, hello. Because she takes us through some historical background to various contributions that US presidents have made to the well-being of African Americans.
Okay, person who clearly didn't listen in history class at that military academy your parents shipped you off to, a brief review of what various presidents have done for African Americans. Emancipation, Reconstruction, the New Deal, though he didn't exactly set Black Americans up for success while he was excluding them and handing off giant economic goodies to the newly created white middle class. Desegregating the military, sending the National Guard to help desegregate schools, and the 1957 Civil Rights Act, though the whole highways mowing down Black communities thing was kind of a problem. The Civil Rights Act of 1963, which became the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Voting Rights and Fair Housing Acts. Record economic prosperity. Black president. Oh, and also Obamacare and saving the economy from George W. Bush.
I wish she'd named some of those presidents as she was showing their pictures, because I'm Australian and I'm not familiar with the names of the people she was showcasing. So that was a history lesson, but it needed a little more elucidation. So next time, maybe when I have a bigger American audience that's awake, we'll have people who can tell me in the comments section which presidents they were. It's always good to have educated people in the background who can help us out. One interesting point is that white people in suburbs, and actually America's diverse population in suburbs, have a sufficient level of education to reject Republicans, in no small part because of their anti-public health positioning that they are currently doing in order to stay in line with the current United States president, who is very stubborn, very obdurate in his opposition to taking this crisis seriously, to accepting that it's a federal problem that needs federal help. Now, Trump has, I guess, run through a succession of motivations for not taking action at a federal level. But one overriding motivation could potentially be not contradicting his previous actions, not admitting wrongdoing, which is implicit when you reverse course. So if he was to now start a federal plan, then people would say, well, you didn't take it seriously before. So instead, I would imagine his strategy is to continue to find stratagems to conceal statistics from the public, to continue to manipulate the numbers in Florida, where his willing accomplice, Ron DeSantis, is likely to, well, they already fired the scientist who had compiled a resource, a website, which depicted the various numbers of people being infected and the numbers of people being hospitalized in various states and various counties in Florida. So she got fired from her job for insubordination, and she claims she was fired from her job for refusing to tamper with the statistics in order to make the state government appear that it was doing a better job than it was, which is a form of insubordination, but it's also a principled response to corruption, to fail to go along with corrupt orders from people higher up than you in an organization. So yes, Chris Hayes is making the point with this tweet that suburbs are actually a stronger electoral base for redistribution, economic redistribution, than rural areas that might materially benefit from it the most. And that is because white grievance and persistent white racism against Black Americans has been amplified, exploited, and weaponized to serve the Republican Party, even as it hurts rural voters. So they are told that it's a matter of principle for them to keep voting against things like Medicaid expansion, with the implication being that by voting in that way, they're stopping welfare queens and immigrants from getting their taxpayer dollars, from getting access to that. So it's harder for them, those voters who are misled in that way, to pay attention to the fact that expanding Medicaid helps people survive, be they white or Black, and that it is principled to distribute taxpayer dollars in a way that helps a society flourish and consequently helps taxpayers flourish. So it's one of those long-term gratification scenarios which you have to explain to voters, and you can't have people openly lie to voters over and over again if you need a critical mass of people supporting measures to help American communities. So that's a bit difficult. That's the challenge of the modern era, which is a lot of Americans have been very persuasively lied to for a very long period of time. And there's a Republican consultant who's published a book that's now on pre-order but will come out soon, called It Was All a Lie, in which he's, I presume, exposing how Republicans postured to be in favor of various principles, but that it was a lie created and delivered in order to gain more access to power for Republicans and to allow donor classes to purchase political power and to purchase the loyalties of Republican politicians. Someone points out that this reminds me of Franklin Delano Roosevelt programs, which dragged much of rural America kicking and screaming into the 20th century. Rural America, we don't want electricity. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, tough. So that's interesting. I didn't know that that happened, and I'll have to look into it further. Oh, look, there's a rural Missouri voter that says, yes, to some degree, we need to tell rural Missouri what's good for them because many can't figure it out on their own. Poor rural Missouri. You can predict election results in some way by calculating what proportion of the population is university educated. All right. Well, I think that's all from me for today. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. My next goal is to work together with someone I know from Twitter and maybe compile some poetry that involves loving kindness meditations for different people of different political affiliations, so that even when we don't agree with people and we think their goals are bad and their ideas are bad and destructive, we can relieve some of the pressure and stress that comes from hating people, and we can wish those people well. Because it's not okay to just be waiting around for Trump voters to die from the coronavirus. That's not cool. If they die, know that they will have taken down medical professionals with them, because the medical professionals don't get a choice as to whom they help in relation to their political affiliation or even their personal choices about whether or not to wear masks because they think Trump recommended against masks. Medical professionals just have to deal with everybody who's sick. So the more misguided, sick, infected Americans there are, the more medical professionals are likely to contract this illness and die as a consequence, or suffer long-term damage to their organs, such as their kidneys, their liver, their lungs, their heart. Myocarditis, reduced lung capacity, kidney damage, increased likelihood of strokes and heart attacks, because COVID-19 is a disease of hypercoagulability of the blood. Your blood becomes thicker and you're more likely to have a problem with a clot forming in your brain or a clot forming in your heart that clogs up your arteries and prevents your heart from being able to circulate blood around your body and supply your tissues with oxygen, which results in a heart attack. So yes, I hope that was interesting and informative for some people. Oh, I got a troll. That's exciting. Hannah Strand, you're welcome. You can't see the troll because it's a troll on YouTube, but I can probably block them. Well, 150,000 confirmed deaths and 330 million people. You personally may not know someone who's died, but the fact that more and more people know someone who's infected is one reason why Trump's approval rating keeps dropping with independent voters. Because Republicans will still rationalize it according to whatever they're told to do by Trump. If they're told to dismiss the coronavirus as being a hoax, they do. If they're told to dismiss the coronavirus as being something you should just blame China for, then yes. So how do I block someone on YouTube? I guess that's for me to work out. But yes, these type of people are either very, very misguided, or they're paid trolls, or just even algorithms unleashed upon the world, which is unfortunate, but it happens. So yes, it's the opposite of fake news to try and help people take it seriously, that you need to wear masks and you need to adopt safe practices, because it's a global problem. And there's lots of footage of hospitals that have been filled with people struggling with the respiratory symptoms of the disease, let alone all of the statistics showing an increased rate of strokes and heart disease occurring, because this is a disease that affects people's likelihood of having a stroke or a heart attack because of increased hypercoagulability. And I'm next waiting for the troll to start suggesting that hydroxychloroquine is the cure for this disease they're claiming is a hoax. And of course, they'll claim it's a hoax, that much testing has found that hydroxychloroquine lacks not only efficacy, but also safety. It's not safe to use hydroxychloroquine for COVID-19 because COVID-19 is associated with increased incidence of heart arrhythmias, and so is hydroxychloroquine. So they have complementary effects which compound the risks to people's heart. You can't see I've got this succession of just trollish incessant rapaggery. Yes, my empty hospital is also disinformation. And the truth is not illegal, but disinformation finds its way into the public sphere. But a lot of private companies are trying to keep disinformation away because it's so destructive. And a lot of families are hurting that have lost loved ones, which is why this disinformation is so destructive and shameful that people are circulating it. But, however you choose to earn a dollar, or however you choose to sustain your ego by pretending that you have access to information that contradicts reality. So the reality is the video footage from Italian hospitals. And that is a situation that replicates itself in American hospitals where there are few ICU beds. There's footage of refrigerated trucks in New York City, 10 refrigerated trucks that were pulling up to hospitals to take away the bodies. a situation that is now occurring in southern states where Trump-advised governors opened precipitously and brought these elevated risk levels forward for their population. So yes, it's very problematic that people feel so emotionally incentivized or financially incentivized to try and harm others, to try and reduce the number of people that take this seriously, when in order to reduce virus transmission, you need a compliance rate of between 80 to 90% of everybody wearing masks, and preferably eye protection as well, because COVID-19 is a virus that obtains access through your mucosal surfaces in your mouth, in your nose, and even the mucosal surfaces of your eyes. So the conjunctiva that line your eyes, ideally you would protect those with a face shield if you have to be unavoidably in a situation where you're exposed to other people. Because the likelihood that you'll get an infective dose of COVID-19 viral particles is a function of how long you spend in close proximity to others who are unmasked and who are breathing or talking or speaking or singing. So talking, yelling, speaking, actually speaking and talking are the same. Speaking, yelling, singing enhance the aerosolization of droplets emanating out of your mouth from your respiratory system. You vibrate your vocal folds more when you speak and when you sing, and that helps to just break up those droplets of saliva, of mucus coming out of your body, very tiny, and that are more likely to get access to your body. Oops, I've got to go. I've got to go get my kids. Thanks everybody for listening. Take care and take a holiday from trolling. See you, bye.